Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the U.S. is expecting a response from Iran on its latest peace proposal. Joining us now to discuss is foreign policy analyst Rod Martin, founder and CEO of Martin Capital. So, Rod, good afternoon to you. Now, as you're aware, there was a confrontation between the U.S. and Iran yesterday, and this is amid a ceasefire. And Secretary Rubio said the U.S. military action against Iran yesterday was separate from Operation Epic Fury. I just want you to take a listen to this clip here of what he said.
If you fire a drone or a missile at our destroyer, what are we supposed to do? Let it hit it? We have to respond to it. We have to knock down the missile, and we have to knock out whatever it is that launched that missile. The alternative is to let it sink one of our ships. That's crazy. So, of course, we responded to it.
Okay, so Rod, your comments on Rubio's response.
Well, there are multiple messages being sent here. You know, for the people who actually know what's going on, and by that I mean the Chinese general staff, they realize that the destroyers in question are Arleigh Burke Flight 2 destroyers, which means they're not even the latest and greatest technology. I mean, you attack these destroyers and you just die. And not only do you die, but your buddies back on shore die too. So, you know, this isn't even latest, greatest stuff. And we have a lot of latest, greatest stuff, and we have a lot of new stuff coming on after that. So China's looking at this and thinking about the Taiwan Strait. They're also thinking about the fact that we're in no hurry to open the Strait of Hormuz. Trump demonstrated very clearly an ability to open the strait and then went back to the ceasefire. Well, what's the point of that? Well, it's reminding the Europeans, we don't need this oil and you're not being helpful. And it's reminding the Chinese, we don't need this oil and you have gas lines across China right now because the strait is closed. So that had an immediate impact. And we saw it yesterday when the Iranian foreign minister goes to Beijing and gets a tongue lashing from the Chinese, who are supposedly their allies. They're saying open the strait. They're saying make peace. That's exactly the opposite of what all the doomsayers said would happen. China was going to come in with troops and forces, and it's going to be World War III. No, none of that was ever going to be true. And Donald Trump and Marco Rubio understood that flawlessly when they launched this operation. So we still have plenty of people with TDS who are desperate to portray this as some kind of loss. But the truth is, we're in the process of reordering the world here, and a lot of people are sitting up and taking notice, regardless of their public words.
Okay, on that note, you're saying we're trying to reorder the world. Rubio said that we actually might get a deal today. So just take a listen to this clip.
We're expecting a response from them today at some point. We have not received that yet, as you know, in the last hour, but perhaps that will come. Their system is still highly fractured and a bit dysfunctional as well, so that may be serving as an impediment.
So, Rod, what is your feeling right now on if we're actually close to a conclusion of this war?
I doubt very much that we're going to get a negotiated settlement that Donald Trump is willing to live with, because his terms are basically unconditional surrender, regardless of what he calls it. He's not going to make them wave a white flag. He's not going to have an Appomattox courthouse or USS Missouri kind of ceremony, but he is absolutely going to demand the fruits of this overwhelming military victory. And I don't see these Iranian leaders wanting to give it to him. So, you know, who can wait whom out? That's the question. And the Iranians have thought that they could wait out Donald Trump because the midterms are looming and, oh, all this causes so much pain to the American consumer. Well, actually, gas prices are much higher in nearly every country in the world than the United States. We're actually under pretty good control. We've got incredible jobs numbers. We've got tremendous CapEx. Everything's coming together for an economic boom midsummer. No matter how many people want to pretend that's not true, the numbers are plain. So Trump actually has more room to wait the Iranians out here than they think. Meanwhile, we're getting reports that the Iranians are actually dumping oil into the Persian Gulf because they simply don't have any more storage capacity, as we've discussed before. And at that point, you either start having to create an environmental catastrophe, which they seem somewhat willing to do, and that'll bring down the condemnation of the world. The Europeans will actually care about that. Or you actually have to shut in oil fields, a lot of which are fragile. And, if Iran starts having to do that in the next few days, they might permanently lose 500,000 or 600,000 barrels a day capacity because some of those fields won't be capable of being restarted.
So, are there any circumstances in which the Iranian regime will actually agree to President Trump of getting rid of its nuclear program and giving its enriched uranium to the U.S.? Is there any circumstance where the Iranian regime will do that?
It's kind of hard to imagine, but it's not impossible. I think, the factionalization that we've been talking about and that the Secretary of State was talking about is really the dominant factor. All these guys are looking over each other's shoulders. It's why in the first Islamabad meeting, we had 70 Iranians show up. Well, none of them trust each other. They're all trying to make sure that this faction over here doesn't sell out that one over there. So they're kind of in a hard place and they don't really have anywhere to go. So the longer you run them out of money, and that's really the crucial point of the blockade, which we have not let up on at all during this ceasefire. The blockade is depriving them of between $400 and $500 million a day for a country that is very much a third world economy. These people do not have that kind of money to lose. This is catastrophic, and it means that they don't have the resources to carry on the war beyond a certain point. So again, we're back to that game of chicken. Do they believe that we can outlast them? So far, they haven't. Do we believe we can outlast them? My guess is betting against Donald Trump on this would be very, very foolish. So do we get to a negotiated settlement? Maybe, if and when that happens. I don't think it's going to be this regime in place. I think it's going to be key leaders of this regime negotiating their exit package to go live on the French Riviera and some kind of transition come into place. I don't see them being up for that quite yet, but that doesn't mean they won't be. And if something doesn't break pretty quickly, I think Trump resumes bombing. And when he says it will be more intense than before, you may trust him that it really will be.
So, Rod, here's what I'm wondering. If you're saying that both sides are trying to potentially wait the other side out, does that mean this war is going to be longer than we think?
Not necessarily. I mean, the real ticking clock here is the oil, because at a certain point, you simply run out of places to put it. And like I said, I saw some video about an hour ago that suggests pretty strongly the Iranians are dumping at least some oil into the Persian Gulf just for lack of storage capacity. One of the reasons that we're disabling tankers going to Iranian ports, rather than just letting them go there and then not letting them leave, is every one of those tankers has a tremendous amount of additional storage capacity the Iranians could use to offload oil that otherwise would need to stay in the ground. But the only way it stays in the ground is if they actually shut off the pumps, if they actually shutter the fields. That is a potentially catastrophic thing for the Iranian economy. So they're between a rock and a hard place. We are hitting that point at which that becomes very, very real for them. And I think the president knows exactly what his timeline is. I think if you're going to have a game of chicken here, you better bet on the president.
Do you think the U.S. to this point has achieved most of its objectives? Where are we right now?
Yes, virtually all objectives have been met. The unspoken one that we're all hinting around is regime change. You know, the president was very careful not to enumerate it as one of his specific war aims because you don't know if you can really pull it off. We honestly don't know if that can be done. in part or large part through an air campaign. Never been done before. And yet, as you know, we spent 2.5 weeks before the ceasefire taking out individual IRGC units on the ground with drone strikes. We're doing this stuff by remote control from Tel Aviv and Nevada. It's just ridiculous what we're able to do now. And of course, we're going to turn up the heat dramatically if we can't get to a deal. So yeah, I think all the other objectives are largely met. Can they build a nuclear weapon anytime soon? Probably not. Can they reconstitute their nuclear program with anything except the already enriched uranium that's buried somewhere? Well, no, not really. And is there any indication that this president won't go bomb those centrifuges again? No, there's no indication that he won't just come right back. This is our second time in a year. So there's every reason to believe that what we've seen in the decimation of their air defenses, the decimation of their actual air force, the eradication of the factories that make the mines that go in the strait, the factories that make the missiles that could launch some kind of terrible barrage at Europe or Diego Garcia or Israel or potentially someday the United States. All of those things have been wildly effective. We can do more, but it's almost to the point of diminishing returns in terms of military targets.
Okay, Rod, just one final thing here. If you're saying that the U.S. has virtually achieved its objectives in Operation Epic Fury, what's a better move right now? Wait for Iran to submit a proposal or declare victory?
Well, Larry Kudlow is very, very disturbed by the fact that we're not bombing these guys. And I agree with him on a certain level. But I think the president understands that the deeper game here is not just Iran. As I said at the outset, we also have Chinese and European audiences and actually Arab Gulf state audiences. You've seen that come together as the Gulf states have become far more supportive as this has gone on of the United States. We're doing this currency swap line with the UAE, most likely. UAE has left OPEC. We're bringing these guys on side. Our East Asian allies are coming along better. The Chinese summit is going to be teed up really nicely, as evidenced by what they just said to the Iranian foreign minister. The only people who seem to be missing the point are the Europeans. And even there, you know, when Donald Trump said we're going to pull 5,000 troops out of Germany, both Merz and Maloney immediately went on TV and basically begged him not to do it and talked about how important the U.S. alliance is. So Trump is just playing a lot deeper game than Iran, and the ceasefire is actually helping with that broader effort even more than it is in Iran. But at the end of the day, in Iran, we're bankrupting them. We're absolutely shutting off their ability to prosecute the war and stay in power. And that time that is passing is helping to an end that could otherwise be accomplished through bombing, but doesn't have to be.
Well, all right, Rod, always enjoy hearing your insight. Very good. Thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Don.